everyone, and welcome to the Wright Perspective. Today, we're going to recap and discuss two comedy movies from the 90s, Sister Act from 1992 and Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit from 1993. The first movie, Sister Act, starred Whoopi Goldberg, Maggie Smith, and Harvey Keitel. It was directed by Emil Ardolino. It grossed $231.6 million on a budget of $31 million and received 2 Golden Globe nominations. It was even turned into a stage musical. The second movie, Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit, starring Whoopi Goldberg, Kathy Najimy, James Coburn, Maggie Smith, and featuring Lauryn Hill, and it was also directed by Bill Duke. It grossed $57.3 million on a budget of $38 million. It's reported that Disney is currently working on a third movie, Sister Act 3, slated to come out in 2022. For some, that fact alone would be enough to consider the movies in this franchise classics. But today, we will determine whether they are classics from the Wright Perspective. We'll do a recap, we'll discuss the movie, and then we'll take a vote using a voting symbol picked especially for this discussion. But let's start with intros. Kick us off, bro.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Wright. I'm the oldest.
I'm Genia Wright. I'm the middle.
And I'm Brittany Wright, and I'm the youngest.
Yay! Watching these two movies was anything from the 90s. Like these are definitely throwbacks to our childhood, just in terms of like movies that were on in our household. And so I actually did have fun thinking about voting symbols for this one, because it was a challenge to kind of think about these movies that we know so well, like a little bit more deeply, to kind of think about like symbolism in the movie. So I appreciated that challenge, that going back to familiar content with a critical lens.
Here we go, Brittany.
Yeah, no. Right. So did y'all come up with any voting symbols?
Okay. Just now in my head.
All right. Well, I already know one of your sis is probably a nun's habit, right?
We're done here. There's nothing else to discuss.
That was the only one. That was the only one.
Well, I'm not surprised. Okay.
Lord.
That's very obvious and also very surface level. Now, if we wanted to go deeper.
Let me let you know. I just as much as the habit is going to be the symbol, as sure as I am of that, I am equally as sure that I'm so excited to hear the rest of this thought process.
Well, I'm happy then that you have an open mind for my proposals. Do you see?
How many are there?
I have 2.
All right, let's hear them.
I have 2.
Because you went deep. I'm sure you went deep.
Now, for the first movie, I propose that we use the daisy head alarm clock. Now, you all remember in this scene, this is when Dolores is just getting accustomed to being, Mary Clarence as a pretend nun. And one of the nuns that has kind of globbed onto her, like a little puppy dog, comes and brings her an alarm clock because Dolores obviously is having a hard time getting up at 5 a.m. And she hands her an alarm clock and the alarm clock says, "Get out of bed, you daisy head. Get out of bed, you daisy head." And I just said, you know what? That is a perfect symbol for this movie, because it is about, this movie at its essence is about...
Talk about the essence. Talk about the essence, though.
It is about being in transition. It is about showing up fully, okay? And it is about really the power of hard work, and what can happen when you shake things up, all right? It's about being proactive. It's about getting up. It's about being present, okay? And I think of an alarm clock as a great symbol of just like waking up, being present, being proactive. And that's what this movie's about. Well, for the second movie,
all right, break it down.
I would like to propose a graffiti wall. Now, a graffiti wall was actually, featured in both movies. But in the second movie, in Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit, it was a symbol of revitalization. Okay, it was actually that for both. But it was also a symbol of like connection to community. You remember when the mural became present in the first movie, it was when the members of the convent were starting to get reconnected with community. And in the second movie, the mural was present in two ways. First, it was present in the space where the young people of the community were chit-chatting and hanging out. And it was also present in the music room once they revitalized the music room. And so it truly was a symbol of not just revitalization and newness, it was a symbol of coming together.
As always, Janai, those are very thought out symbols. They're amazing. And Britt, I think I'm still going to vote for the habit, as you said, for both. But
yeah, get out of bed, you daisy head. Okay, listen.
I feel like we should just oblige. I think that we should have the habit for the first one and the graffiti wall for the second one.
No. And I don't agree.
Yes.
And I'm gonna tell you why. You know what happened last time we did that. All right, and you're trying to rehash this whole. You know what?
What was it? What was it the last time?
All I want you to know
bench. It was the bench for Brown.
That's right. And you're doing it, but I'm not even fighting with you. I'm just saying I don't want to hear the complaints. You know what you're doing. So if I'm outvoted, we will use a graffiti wall. I don't even know what that is. But we'll use that.
Yes.
It's a wall of graffiti.
That's clearly not a symbol. All right. Well, all right. So a habit for the first one.
Oh wait, yes. We have to call it what they call a mural. It's a mural.
All right.
So the voting symbol for Sister Act is a habit, and the voting symbol for Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit, is a mural.
Yes.
This is Brittany. This is Brittany's
thoughtful
problem.
analysis and symbolism.
This is Brittany's problem being loving to people. You are enabling Janai right now. I just want you. All right, fine.
Listen.
All right, so we got our yes. Brittany, when this backfires on us, I don't want to hear your complaints.
All I know is
I have faith in her.
Get out of bed, you daisy head. All right, let's get going. Let's get going. Now,
Aubrey, if you want to be somebody,
you know what you got to do.
That's what it is, because y'all
you know what you got to do
right now.
What you got to do. What you got to do. You got to wake up and pay attention. That's it.
Okay. Well, can we move on?
Okay, let's move on. All right, next is the synopsis of, so we're going to do Sister Act first, then we're going to talk about Sister Act 2, right?
All right, sounds good.
Okay, so I'll do a quick recap of Sister Act for us. And this is a spoiler alert for those who are new to our podcast. We do a complete recap because we're pulling out from the archives. So in case you haven't seen it in a while or you haven't seen it, you'll get enough from this recap to follow the discussion. Totally, but it's full of spoilers. So Sister Act, so Sister Act opens with a scene in a Catholic school. We meet a little girl named Dolores that is just cutting up in one of her classes. And she gets scolded by her teacher, a nun. Okay. And the teacher scolds her and says, something like, the destructive path that you're on is going to lead you straight to the devil, Dolores. Have you any idea what girls like you become? And then we flash forward to current day and we see what she's become. Okay. It's like a seedy, smoky, ruddy Reno lounge. And we see three women singing cover music led by who? Dolores, now grown up, played by Whoopi Goldberg. And, that little girl has grown up to become a lounge singer. And we find out that she is dating the owner of the casino, a mobster named Vince LaRocca, played by Harvey Keitel. And their relationship obviously is just toxic, and he's doing all the things that men do to try to keep a side piece happy, including giving her gifts. This time, though, he gave her a coat with his wife's name embroidered on the inside. And she goes to confront him and ends up witnessing a murder. Now, she runs away and barely escapes with her life. She runs right to the police. And it turns out that the police have been investigating Vince for 18 months, but their witnesses keep turning up dead because there is a leak somewhere in the police department. Okay. The lead detective, Detective Souther, played by Bill Nunn, has to come up with a really creative way to hide Dolores, to keep her alive, a really creative witness protection plan. And so he puts her in a struggling convent in San Francisco, where she has to pretend to be a nun named Mary Clarence. Now, as you can imagine, Dolores is not really fitting in very well. Okay. Poverty, chastity, white people praying all the time, not her things. Okay. And she is immediately on the bad side of the head nun, Reverend Mother, played by Maggie Smith. Oh, love me some Maggie Smith. Eventually, as a punishment, the Reverend Mother assigns Dolores to become a member of the choir. And, the nuns in the choir, of course, they find Dolores completely delightful. All right. Especially like her core little group of friends, played by Kathy Najimy, Wendy McKenna, and Mary Wicks. And she ends up taking over leadership of the choir. Under her leadership, the choir goes from horrible, and that's an understatement, horrible to being really, really good. And she has them doing like little doo-wop remixes and gospel-like covers of hymns. And the choir is so good, in fact, that the church that was struggling with membership and they were having a hard time paying their bills, they are now bursting at the seams with parishioners, okay? And even the local news is paying attention. Then it goes to the national news. And now the Pope is aware of this choir. And along the way, Dolores has also helped the church to start to connect with the community in a genuine way. Before she arrived, they were just behind the walls of the church, just praying for the community. Now they're engaging. So it's just complete overhaul. Okay. Meanwhile, back in Reno, the leak at the police department has discovered Dolores's location. Okay. And has notified Vince. Now, the bad guys are on their way to San Francisco to find her and kill her before she can testify. Fortunately, Detective Souther finds out, and he also heads to San Francisco to save her. Now, in spite of his best efforts, the bad guys still manage to get Dolores, and they bring her back to Reno. Well, now the cat is out of the bag at the convent, okay? And the nurses are shocked to find out that Dolores has been in hiding with them the whole time. But they are so committed to her as a friend, they're indebted to her. She brought their convent back to life. They decide to go to Reno to save her. And surprise, it works, okay? Because of this horde of nuns swarming the casinos, the bad guys had a hard time keeping their hands on Dolores. And all of the bad guys, frankly, they feel a little reluctant at the idea of shooting a nun. Okay, including Dolores, who in their minds may or may not have actually become a nun while in hiding. So the gangsters hesitate just long enough for Detective Souther and the Reno police to burst in and save the day. And the nuns and Dolores go on to become famous because of their music and the fact that Dolores has helped take down a mobster ring. The end. How did it feel to watch this movie after so much time has passed? And then what did you think of the actual kind of like storyline?
You want to start, Britt?
Sure. I was first kind of chuckling to myself because when this movie came out, there were only VHSs. And I was laughing to myself that I'm sitting in my bed watching it on my phone. Like,
right.
I was just kind of like, man, the passing of time. But I enjoyed it. I was still laughing. I loved like watching the gangsters like play being gangsters, and I don't know about events, them being that way. I love them really showing that a true dynamic of thinking about a nun who is afraid of the outside, and all of a sudden everything that represents the outside, she now has to protect. And it's like, what? So just seeing that flow, but then also it being this situation of you never know where your gifts and talents are going to lend themselves. And so just seeing Mary Clarence, be who she is, Dolores, be who she is, and then even helping nuns after a nun told her, listen, the devil's going to get you.
You're heading straight to the devil.
Okay, but now here I am helping bring people into this place that I don't even fool with.
Yeah.
But it's important to me because it's important to you. So I enjoyed it. I was still laughing. So
I was surprised. I was surprised at how much I've actually, and this will come out more when we're talking about Sister Act 2, but I was actually a little apprehensive about watching both of these movies. And it was because there are movies that the whole premise of us doing this is just, we talk about stuff from our childhood. I mean, like, that's just what we do normally. And it to us, we're hilarious. It's
so funny.
You know what I mean?
I'm funny to everybody I come across. I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. I blame myself.
Yeah.
But
couldn't just be in the spirit of what he was sharing.
Could be in the spirit. But I'm just saying that, so us, but a lot of the movies, so this movie, I knew were like scene for scene. I knew both of these movies because we watched them so much.
Yeah.
But since I know them scene for scene, I have never watched them as an adult because it's just, I was like, I don't know how I would feel watching them now.
Yeah.
There are just themes, I just wasn't sure about how it would translate into how I feel right now. But watching Sister Act, I was pleasantly surprised. As a matter of fact, the only thing that got on my nerves was, and it hadn't changed, was Sister Mary Robert, which, the small one,
the mousy.
Her not singing and
just that whole interaction
her being
between
shy and
and then the way she brought it out, it was just so movie-ish. You know what I mean? Like, it was very just, she touched her on the back. It was like, oh, like
her diaphragm, which does help you to project if you understand it.
I mean, but I'm saying, as a person who I'm quite sure we're not fixing people singing with slightly pushing them on the back.
You haven't been to listen.
All right, well, look,
to a rehearsal.
Well, check it out. As a layperson, that's not how I would envision that. Like, but beyond that, I'm just saying that was the only part of the movie that felt laborious to me. But it felt like that back then too. But the rest of it, I mean, if you just have fun. Like, if you just let go,
exactly. That's it.
And just have fun. And the biggest thing I took away from that movie is Whoopi Goldberg. Whatever you want to think, she is talented.
Totally.
And she's
amazing.
And she really had that movie on her shoulders, and she kind of brought everybody along. And I do believe that without her, it would have been a much lesser movie. I think she actually...
Well, bro, it's funny you should say that, because it turns out that Bette Midler was originally supposed to be the lead in Sister Act. And she didn't take the part because she didn't think her fans would appreciate her as a nun. But it was originally for Bette Midler. And so they ended up rewriting it a little bit so that it could be for Whoopi.
But you know what, though?
But when you think about it, it's like
Beck could have did it.
It still would have been hilarious.
Beck could have did it. That would have been funny too.
Still would have been hilarious.
So yeah, definitely. But I'm just saying how it turned out.
Yes.
This is, but that is one I can see. But how it turned out, you could just, like, when she did her prayer, I laughed just. How we laughed, like it like transported me. I could hear us laughing.
And for those who may not have seen the movie or may not have seen it in a while, after she is first impersonating a nun, they invite her to, she's at lunch, and one of the nuns who doesn't know she's faking says, "Oh, why don't we let Sister Mary Clarence do grace over our meal?" And she did this prayer that was like a hodgepodge of the Pledge of Allegiance, a benediction. It was like random scriptures. Yea, though I walk through the valley of hunger.
Wrong words.
It was like so good and awful.
Sitcom theme lyrics.
Even when she started to pray when they were about to shoot her, she at the end she started making up.
She
words.
Was like tutu pluribus.
But even
what is happening here?
And the scene Brittany's talking about, I know we're skipping all around, but I mean it's just
that's what we do.
But
it's connecting because it's prayer. Using Jania's hand motions, it's prayer.
That's good.
That's good. But Brittany's going to the end where they're we're reaching the climax and they actually have Dolores captured. But they can't, like I was talking about, they can't tell whether or not
is she really a nun now?
And so I would just tell you, the way she was just looking up at them, like she was just so holy. It was just comedy gold.
So good.
And she wasn't even doing anything for real. It was it was just the way she did it. She just nailed it when she was just looking up at him like, I forgive you. I forgive you.
Right. And you know what? I gotta say, and so I watched the behind the scenes, like the making of Sister Act. And the people, the actors and the director, they were basically saying like she would bring in fresh takes all the time. And so there is so much of what we're seeing that is just Whoopi coming in and killing a scene, just killing it. And, they didn't get into the specifics of what was her improvising and what part was actually on but you got to sense that she was just bringing herself, bringing her way of portraying a character into the movie. And it just showed up so well, her natural comedy, you know? And the other thing, like I have always, like Whoopi Goldberg to me as an actress, I mean, she actually is iconic. I mean, we could do a whole episode on her, frankly. Maybe we should.
She got that, what's it called?
The EGOT. And one of the things I thought was interesting though, is that she does not consider herself to be a singer. And she really sang in this movie. And so it's so funny. In one of the interviews, she was saying, no, I never intended to sing at all, and she ended up, and they were like, no, you're singing in this movie. And she showed up so fully, and no one expected her to be able to sing as well, including herself. And she actually did. Like, she was like, no, I'm an actor. I don't sing. So it's not even like she had a hidden singing talent in her own mind.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know what I mean? I thought that was really interesting.
She scared herself like,
oh, let me find out. You
know what? I was reading a book, or no, I think it was a TikTok, and it was just a voiceover, and it was saying people who are artsy, like if you're in the arts, acting, singing, all these different things, there are layers of talent that you don't even know that you have as you're in that talent. And then those things, as you progress, they show themselves.
They reveal themselves.
That's and so it just makes me go like,
just like how musicians,
so much sense.
Like musicians acclimate to other
exactly.
Yes. Yeah, I got you. Yes.
Well, play the guitar. You can do the drums too. Like, how did that? What? But I love that. I love that.
Aubrey's favorite character, Mary Roberts, who was actually played by Wendy McKenna. For her audition,
she looks like a Wendy. That's funny.
She sure does. For her audition, they asked her to sing, and she knew she couldn't sing, and so she said she hired 3 backup singers to come in. And they kind of burst in the room, in the casting room, and they drowned her out. And so she literally, she was like, I pretended to be able to sing all the way through the audition process. She was like, but then we started filming and it was clear that I couldn't. So she was the only one of the main singers where they actually had someone else doing the singing. But the rest of them, like Kathy and Jimmy, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh, she was her musical delivery.
Gosh. Like,
listen.
So hilarious.
I'm just telling you that. I can't, watching her was just as funny as it was. And I'm just telling you.
So good.
And I'm just telling you, even when she was joking, it was so powerful. It was still impressive. Like how she could just open her mouth
Yes.
And it just, that vibrato just comes out like without even her. I'm like, that's a singer.
She's a friend. She's the friend in the friend group that has to be the positive one. And it's not like annoying positive. It's like you're genuinely happy right now.
Right.
Nothing's making you sad. Okay.
When they came into the bar, there's a scene where Dolores has to get out the convent for a second. And she goes across the street to this conveniently placed bar that is right across the street from the, from the church. And she just needs to get into normal world for a little while. She orders a Coke or whatever it was, but I forget their nun names, but the mousy nun, the quiet one.
Mary Roberts.
And the other one, the loud one, both came. And
Mary Patrick was Kathy and Jimmy's character.
And when Mary Patrick she was just so excited. Like she was just so excited there. And it was when the guy asked her, oh, could you is there something on here that you want to hear when he was playing on the jukebox? And she played that song and started dancing and stuff.
It was mashed potato. Yes. She was like, gimme. Like
and she just nailed it.
She was so into it,
so oblivious.
How could you be in that scene with her? It would have I would have messed it up a couple times because I would have busted out
rolling
at least twice.
She was so good.
Nailed
and you know what? I gotta say, the casting in this movie, I just think, we started to talk about like the acting and the characters. Y'all, I gotta say, I think the casting was amazing. Like,
it was
Harvey Keitel as Vince LaRocca. I mean, he was hilarious. And even his little, second in command bad guys, to Brittany's earlier point, like they were so delightfully dumb. Yeah. Like it was so good.
It was like perfect.
It wasn't over the top.
Too corny.
No.
Was like right there.
And then Maggie Smith.
I know this life. I was raised like this. Yes. So this is just my nature.
This is who I am.
Even when they came in to deliver this coat that ultimately started everything because it had his wife's name in it. Him just saying hello to the two other singers. How you doing, Nick?
Robert Miranda played Joey and Richard Portnow played Willie. And of course their names are Joey and Willie. Right? Like it was like
it was so perfect.
They were so perfect.
And I do want to say that person that Mary Patrick started dancing with in the bar is AJ Johnson.
Yes.
She's the one that's very well known. I would say more so in the Black community in terms of movies.
Yeah, you're right.
Like Baby Boy.
And now she's like a fitness guru, she's
a life coach.
And a life coach.
And she still acts, but yes, so I just thought that was funny.
Oh, and she was in House Party too.
Oh yeah, totally.
Janiyah List.
House
Party.
And put it on the real list.
I am.
Janiyah admitted to us that there's also a mental list that she uses that sometimes gets things purged.
Because I'll be forgetting, But okay, I just literally typed it. You all, in case you're wondering, we have an actual content planner document that we all just love to use to collaborate in our planning and our production meetings. And so I have just added House Party.
We're supposed to put stuff on there?
No, yeah, we just keep it on Janiyah's computer. That's all.
Yeah, I like
that. But it was
now tell you things and then you write it.
That's fine. That's fine. Middle child burden. Here we
go.
But y'all, can we please talk about Maggie Smith though? Because y'all, let me just say something about Maggie Smith.
Yeah.
I love me some Maggie Smith. Okay, like she is to me.
Which one is?
She played Reverend Mother.
Okay, go ahead.
Totally. Like, I loved her in Downton Abbey. Y'all, I mean, listen, just her ability to do comedic delivery, like with a straight face. She is the best in the game. And in one of the interviews, Whoopi was talking about like, she said at some point, she said to Maggie Smith, why are you in this movie? Like you're like, because apparently like at that point, Maggie Smith was already Maggie Smith. And she said, it just looks like fun, you know, like she was in it for the joy of it and for the fun of it. And I appreciate that. And she was such a fun counterpoint for Whoopi, you know, because the being a straight man to the comedic foil, like that is such a special skill set. And I just think Maggie Smith did it so well. And then there were the parts of the movie where she had to bring in a level of depth and heart. You know, there were points where she would only just say a few sentences, but you could see like the way that the entirety of her dedication to her work as a nun had shaped who she was. And you could see how much responsibility she felt for all of the women in the convent. Like you just, in every single line, you felt the complexity of what she was dealing with and trying to be a support for everyone, lead everyone, you know, make good decisions, also be supportive of this new eccentric character that's come into her life. And then we got to see her character kind of evolve and be able to be open to and embrace a new way of doing things. It was very hard for her at first. Like she was trying to shut down. Oh, my choir's not doing no doo-wop, you know?
And honestly, and it's very real too, because
very real.
Because people are resistant to change.
Totally, especially in religious spaces. Big time.
And it was funny, like seeing her and the priest dynamic. The priest was like, "Oh, this was wonderful." He knew lightweight what he was doing to her. Like he was slightly manipulating her.
Not slightly.
So happy you came up with these ideas.
Right.
And she's like, I did what now?
Right.
I did.
And not to jump ahead, but it was funny how she ended up using that tactic in the second one.
Yes.
Exactly. Listen, okay, so this brings me to one thing where Aubrey was talking about how you're like Wendy. I don't remember her name on the movie now. So
Mary Roberts.
Her.
Yeah.
So what Mary Roberts, how you feel about her? Like, why is she so mousy?
She's so
the
mousy.
only part that got me, which has always gotten me, was how did all the nuns fit on the helicopter? I was like, there's not that many
listen,
on a helicopter.
That was the part. That was one of the parts. Because, you know, to answer your question.
You all obviously don't understand how helicopters work.
Listen,
it was completely plausible.
Listen.
Okay. It was a really robust helicopter. And he called other pilots.
That turned into a
then how? Let me tell you.
He called other pilots. Y'all don't see, because this is the thing.
Messing it up. You're messing it up.
You're not getting it. Neither of you are getting it, because he called other pilots in. Okay, and they had an appropriate number of helicopters and pilots, so that it was reasonable.
First of all, how did they all get to the airfield?
They used the school bus, bro. We know the nuns use the school bus to go to and fro. Like, why don't you know that?
In the movie?
Yeah, bro. Yes, it is.
In the second, I didn't.
No, but it's there in the first one. As their house, do you think they get around, bro?
I don't.
How do they get around?
It was there. But see, Mary,
they got it. They got a Volkswagen. They did not get a bus.
She was washing a Volkswagen.
They were definitely washing a Volkswagen.
I just don't.
Were excited.
You all know church, like church buildings have garages. Y'all don't know what they had around back.
Janai, you're messing it up trying to defend it. The defense to all of this is, and it goes back into the initial question you asked. How do I feel about? You asked, how do we feel about the story? I enjoy movies from this time frame because it was a simple story. There was a woman who witnessed the murder. She had to go to witness protection.
That's right.
It had to be a place that we would never think to hide her.
That's right.
And eventually, to have a climax, she was going to have to get found out. It was simple. But the two parts where I had to intentionally let go of my brain was, one, how did all the nuns get there? Number one. And number two, to the airport. I didn't even think about what Brittany said of they ain't all fitting.
Listen, every time I'm for years, I've always been like, I've never seen a helicopter be able to fit 20 people. That turns into a mini. It's a jet.
It's several helicopters, obviously. We didn't see them, but...
Can I tell you what the other thing that bothered me was? What was their plan?
Listen, they were
just like, we gotta go.
Bro, I can answer that for you with one word.
No plan.
I can answer that for you with one word, and it is faith. It is faith.
Get there.
Okay, these are women of faith. All right, that was their plan. Okay, the plan was faith, and they were relying. Well, that's exactly right, and it turns out he did.
And look,
he doesn't appreciate you questioning it. I'm just going to tell you that right now. That's how he thinks.
But wait, I'm going to tell you, that's the other great thing about this movie is that it's placed squarely in, the middle of church and all this kind of stuff. But somehow the movie's not preachy in any kind of way.
It's not.
It's like, but it takes place literally in its, but it's not preachy about any message specifically. It's just, feel good, have each other's back.
It's any homogenous group that's in a rut, kind of like, and then something new comes in, a new person comes in with a new perspective and shakes it up and reminds them about what it is they were trying to do in the first place.
And
it could have been in any setting, that storyline, and it would have been delightful.
And nobody ever degraded her for like being what she was.
Nope.
It's just like, because as soon as everything was done, they still loved her. It's like, all right, now.
Well, Reverend Mother threw a little bit of shade at the top.
But she
had to. There were a couple of times where she was like, really nodding to Dolores' lifestyle.
But it wasn't the movie doing that.
That's right.
It was her doing
completely.
That. Completely. So like the movie didn't look down on anybody. The movie itself. It's just, so yes, there were characters within the movie that reacted in ways you would expect them to react.
Yeah.
But I think that no matter what your worldview is, this is a movie that you would think would be polarizing, like if somebody was explaining it, but it's not. It's just a feel.
Now, I will tell you, there were a couple of scenes that I think, and again, I know they rewrote the movie a little bit for Whoopi, but there were a couple of scenes where I was like, if it was Bette Midler in that scene, I might have struggled a little bit. Like there were like when they were out in the community talking to a racially diverse group of young people, and she's like dancing with them. I was just like, if that had been Bette Midler, I might have had a feeling of like,
but you say anybody can pull it off.
But
you're right. Bette Midler's on that line.
Anybody can pull it off.
But
I think even though they meant this for Bette Midler, it was actually meant for Whoopi.
Totally.
In the sense that this all white movie essentially would have, with this one black character and two because of the policeman, for them to be in this neighborhood that they are deeming the hood, and it's dangerous, and it's this, and it's that. And that was one of the things I was going to bring up, because I was looking at the dynamics of this hood. I said, everything is written over. Everything has spray paint on it.
That's one of the parts you gotta. That's one of the parts you gotta let go.
But it wasn't anything that bothered me. But it was.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling you though. I'm agreeing. Like this is a seriously graffiti laden, and
everything is horrible.
The other thing that was funny,
but they also didn't dwell on it. Like it wasn't like like. They did a good job of like making sure you understood that poverty was at a high level in the neighborhood, and that it didn't have public resources. They made that very clear, but they didn't dwell on it.
To get back at Reverend Mother, you had Whoopi Goldberg calling her out like, you cannot just sit back here and pray for these people. You have to be in the community, which is a real conversation.
And it wasn't heavy-handed. And that's
a real conversation.
It wasn't heavy-handed, but it was real. Get out of bed, you daisy head. Get out of bed, you daisy head.
And there it is.
It's your fault, Brittany. It's your fault.
We didn't really talk very much yet about the music itself.
I'm glad you brought it up.
let's talk about the music. And then I want to segue us into the conversation of music with a particular way that they leverage music. And I think expertly was through montage. Okay, listen, I love a good montage. And you know, y'all, we have been talking about doing like a Wright perspective on concepts or people. And I think we should do one on like a Wright perspective on just montages, like the best movie montages. Because this one to me, they were singing just a touch of love, just a touch of love. And they were singing, that's a CNC Music Factory song. So that song is playing while they're like cleaning up the church.
I love the fact that they were taking these songs and just making them about God. Like they weren't even changing the words really. It was just like, y'all know who we're talking about.
But instead of saying my guy, they said my God.
Right.
My God,
one word
nothing he can do can make me untrue to my God.
Yes,
y'all. And I know y'all don't watch South Park, but they did a whole episode on that. It's just how the boys made competing bands, and one of them made a gospel group, and they were like, all we got to do is take regular songs and replace the words with replace a couple of words. So like, instead of I love you so much, baby, you say, I love you so much, Jesus.
And like, y'all, our family church did that growing up. We definitely,
that is like half of gospel music.
We totally like took secular music and like did that very swap. And then we're jamming to it at church. Let the record show.
Absolutely recording sessions for all of the people that came out in the 80s and 90s.
100%.
Kirk Franklin is famous as a result. Like you.
I'm just telling you though, man, I was so excited to hear them sing. I don't want to say the wrong name of the song, but the first song that they sang as a choir after Mary Claret's.
You mean Hail Holy Queen of above? Yep. Oh,
but I was going to say Oh Maria, but I don't know.
I think it's called Hail Holy Queen.
Okay. But yeah, so that when they just the musicality of that, just the whole from beginning to end, like even before they broke out into the faster pace part of the song, just the way they sang it was just like, man, I don't know who sang this, but this was just
man.
amazing.
And the same thing for the one they did in the finale at the end, I Will Follow Him. And they started out with that slow kind of melodic, I will follow him. It was just so well done. I mean, that had to be like 5-part harmony. It was so beautiful.
It was so good.
So good.
Songs as regular songs talking about regular men, problematic. But as we're talking about,
when it's God,
it sounds much better. But I will follow him wherever you may go. There isn't an ocean too deep, a mountain too high. It's problematic. So
yeah. One other quick thing. I know we need to segue to the next.
You're a man. You're
one
a man.
other.
You don't know it's problematic. You want us to follow you to the roof and to the bottom of the ocean.
And we've been socialized. We've been socialized to do that. Just so you know, we're in a constant state of trying.
What if the guy she's singing about feels the same way about her?
We don't have that perspective.
Right, you're right. So let's assume the bad one then.
It wasn't a duet. It wasn't a duet.
You're right.
It wasn't.
He didn't say I will follow you also.
Me as well.
Right. I agree. Reciprocity. That wasn't a part of it.
You're right. This song about her really loving her man, that is a negative content. I can see. Because who wants to love somebody?
This is the helicopter all over again. You're missing it.
He is my.
You're missing it.
Yeah, because there was also that part of the song about where he's really bad to her. Because there is that verse too.
He is not. I love him. I love him. Where he goes, I follow. Listen, I love it.
Yep. Brittany, you're making a good point.
I know, because
you're making a good point.
Because he must be a bad guy.
You know what? He probably did sing the Temptations to her. That's what made him follow. That's what she followed. Because my girl talking about.
But that one doesn't have a problem, right? I'm just keeping track. So that one's okay. The one where he's talking about my girl.
He's missing it. He's missing it entirely. Brittany's point is that a one-sided view of a relationship that shows one person in some sort of, superior power seat in the relationship is problematic.
I don't remember that part of the song, unfortunately.
Okay, I will follow you as opposed to let's sit down and chat and decide where we're going together. Hello, you're not getting it. But anyway, also on the music, y'all, who was in this, didn't have a prominent part. Jennifer.
I feel physically deflated.
It's okay, brother. We will follow you.
One of her backup singers. That's right. You're the boss of us. You're the boss of us because you're a man.
I'm mounted so high. But keep away from you. Okay.
Y'all, Jennifer Lewis. I just want to call her out. Okay. Yes. Because she didn't have a big part. She was just like one of the singers in the lounge when we first meet Whoopi at the top, when we first meet Dolores. But I just want to call her out because I just love me some Jennifer Lewis.
Yes, because she's awesome.
Anything she's in, I just love her.
She has done so much.
Oh, her book, so like much. Mother of Black Hollywood, I think it's called. She's just so good. Jennifer Lewis. We should.
Right, so let's
vote.
Let's vote on that one.
Okay, and I'm adding Jennifer Lewis feature onto the content planner.
Excellent.
Yay!
Yeah, I didn't know about this new featuring actors part, but that's great. All right, so let's.
Bro, we totally are talking about like doing my husband.
Denzel, we've talked about. Husband, bro, you don't remember this? Will Smith? Remember we talked about doing the Wayans family?
That will be.
I don't.
That whole episode will be me talking and the two of you listening.
And that just like when we watched Die Hard and you didn't get to say anything because Aubrey did the whole podcast. Uh-oh.
I did talk too much.
Hey-oh.
I talked too much. I'm sorry.
Me and Brittany were like,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh.
He didn't die though. He didn't die.
Oh. He loved that movie.
I did talk a lot.
I just want to put out there to the podcast audience, if you go back and review any movies that Aubrey has picked, basically it was Terminator featuring Aubrey.
No. I think that one was particularly bad. I think like that one.
I love it though, because you had so much to say. You were so passionate.
But those and that is me trying to restrain myself as well.
I know what you were saying. You were like, I'm trying to stop. But y'all, let's vote. Let's vote on.
That's why she basically follows him, because he just keeps talking. She doesn't get a chance to say where she wants to go.
Does Sister Act get your habit?
It does get my habit. And I'm not going to say Sister Act 2 was named Back in the Habit, which was also a reason why it should have been another habit.
Sounds like you're challenging me to wake up, like I'm being a daisy head. Anyway,
it gets my habit. And I'm going to tell you, unexpectedly, I was really expecting to not enjoy this movie. And I just did. I really did. I laughed out loud. Even though, and to me, good music and good comedy is timeless.
Totally.
And just like, did we ever do Harlem Nights? I can't remember.
No, we sure
didn't. That needs to be on the list too. That needs to be on the list. We kind of got a lot of great ideas.
I remember.
That one's on here already.
Okay, so yeah, but
as a kid, mommy and daddy got mad.
Oh yeah, they were rightfully so. But the point is that like, no matter how many times I've seen that movie, when they are shooting at Eddie Murphy, and they got Arsenio Hall, and the other guy got the big machine guns, and they're shooting real hard, and then the other dude got the small gun, and he just shoots. Anyway, y'all must not have seen the movie as many.
Oh my goodness!
I haven't seen it since I was 1.
We're gonna.
So what? All right. So I will say that Sister Act also gets my habit. And it is, bro, for part of what you were just saying. I mean, it is, to me, there are parts of this movie that are just so well done in terms of the comedy and in terms of the performance that it really will be good forever. The songs that they chose to remix and feature are the songs that are classics for all of us. Like they picked the perfect songs. Generations from now, people will be rocking out to those songs because they're just good family, like cookout songs. These are good songs.
Yep.
And so for that reason, and then the other reason is that, as I mentioned earlier, I really do believe this storyline, it was so, and the arc was so well done that you could actually take that exact story with minimal changes to the script almost, put it in another context of like a homogenous group that needs to be shaken up, and it would still work. That's how well done the writing was. And that's how well, well formulated the relationships were. And so because of that, I have to, and again, listen, and the casting, y'all, it was just so good. So I would definitely give Sister Act my habit. Sis?
Sister Act absolutely gets my habit. One thing whenever I'm looking at these movies and I'm determining them if they're classic or not, is it something that I can watch from now and still just crack up? And the answer is yes. And it was funny because there were parts where I felt myself just walking away from my phone because I would leave it on my bed and I'm listening to it and I didn't even have to see it to know exactly what was happening. And so I just appreciate that it's still, everything landed. And that's just the value of great acting.
Totally.
With someone, and also, and I don't want to dismiss great writing.
Totally.
I don't want to, that combination of thing and great casting. When you have it was like a trifecta happening, you're having a great movie. So absolutely, it gets my habit. It is a classic for me.
There you have it, you all. Sister Act is a classic from the Wright Perspective. And so let's go now to Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit. And these movies were actually released a year apart. One came out in 92. This one came out in 93. So I think that's really interesting. And it's especially interesting because in Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit, it's a year later. It's a year after the first movie. And Dolores, again, played by Whoopi Goldberg, is now a headliner in Las Vegas. She has parlayed that exposure from her work with the choir of nuns and her career has really started to kick off. She is doing her signature performance work of like doing covers and like remixing hits when she sees some of her nun friends from the choir in the audience. And of course, it's her core group again, Kathy and Jimmy, Wendy McKenna, Mary Wicks. They come to one of her shows and she meets with them after this show. And it turns out they have come to her to ask for help. They've moved, the whole convent has moved to a new mission and back in San Francisco, but they're now teachers at a Catholic school called St. Francis, and they are struggling. The school is actually about to close, and they can't relate to their students. The curriculum is tired, they're really at their wits' end. And so, Dolores is torn because she cares about the school. She'd actually gone there as a child, but her career is just starting to take off. And plus, she doesn't see practically how she can be helpful in this situation. And frankly, the nuns don't know either, but they know they need some help. They need something. And so the Reverend Mother, again, played by Maggie Smith, actually ends up guilting Dolores into pretending to be a nun again. And then, she does it. And Whoopi, again, is Mary Clarence. Mary Clarence is back. And this time she's a music teacher at a high school. And listen, from the first day of class, it's horrible. Okay. The kids don't want to learn anything. Okay. They actually think of the music class as a bird course, meaning they expect to fly right through it without doing anything. They really just want to use it as a free period. They're at class, but they aren't doing anything. And it is important to note that there are many noteworthy young stars from the 90s in that classroom. Jennifer Love Hewitt, we all know her from one of Brittany's favorite shows, Ghost Whisperer.
Love that show.
Alana Eubank, we know her from Legally Blonde. Ryan Toby from the group City High. And of course, Lauryn Hill. I don't even got to say nothing. Okay. Iconic. All right. So the kids in the class, they're racially diverse. They're diverse in terms of personalities and experiences. Like one kid is Afrocentric. One is obsessed with makeup. Some are obsessed with boys. One's an artist and has a part-time job that makes him tired during class. One sings at church. One is nerdy. They just had a ton of different personalities. And long story short, though, none of the kids want to do anything. They just want to play around and talk and do rap ciphers and sing. And that is where they messed up, singing in front of Dolores, okay? Dolores hears them sing and decides to turn them into a choir. And it takes a lot of hard work, the kind of work that can only be done using a movie montage, but she whips those kids into shape and the choir is actually quite good, okay? They do fun choreography and they integrate rap into their songs. And they are so good, in fact, that the nuns enter them into the all-state music competition. And it turns out that this is a competition the school has won in, long ago history. But, by this point, the kids know that the school is closing. And so they are looking at the choir competition as a way to kind of go out with a bang. And frankly, the faculty kind of feels the same way. On many levels, they're like, yeah, let's just go out with a bang. Let's try to, let's see if we can update our curriculum a little bit so we go out with a bang. But on some level, the faculty, they're also kind of hopeful that if this choir does win the competition, they might have a chance of keeping the school from closing. So mixed feelings, and it's important to mention that there are some people who are actually not at all excited about the choir or supportive. Two people in particular. One is Mr. Crisp. Okay, he's a school administrator that has recommended that the school close because the funding challenges and the overall poor performance. And frankly, he's just selfish. He really just wants to retire early. He doesn't care about the school, the community, the students. The other person that's not excited about the choir is the mother of Lauryn Hill's character. Okay, Lauryn Hill's character, Rita, is a gifted singer. And this is apparently something she had in common with her late father, okay? Apparently he died singing his shoulda, coulda, wouldas, okay? And her mother, who's played by Shirley Ralph, does not want to see Rita go down that same path, okay? And she actually tells Rita that she has to quit the choir. All right. So Rita does quit for a while, but eventually she forges her mother's signature on a consent form and she goes with the choir to the all-state music competition. Now, when her mother finds out, she heads to the competition too, to personally witness Rita's disobedience. Also heading to the competition are members of the archdiocese that have the power to keep the school open. Also, there are members of the school faculty heading now to the choir competition. And these are faculty members that we've met along the way and fallen in love with, including Father Maurice, who is the principal of the school, and he's played by Barnard Hughes. And we know him as the grandfather from Blossom, Buzz. Okay, but also other stuff.
He's so cute.
And so he and a few other members of the faculty, they have just found out that Dolores is a lounge singer for real. And they found out because Mr. Crisp actually recognized her from her show in Vegas. And so again, these faculty members.
Very fake.
He calls her Sister Mary Fake. They're all heading now also to this competition. And, surprise, okay, the kids perform and they are amazing, okay? They actually win. And they sang a rousing cover of Joyful, Joyful. Rita sings her tail off, okay? And her mother is like, oh, you do have a gift. I forgive you for disobeying me, okay? And then the staff of the archdiocese, they're so impressed, they decide to keep the school open. And now Dolores has saved the day yet again. The end. So good. And I know I will just name we talked when we were talking about the recap from Sister Act, how they used in Sister Act the credits to give you a little bit more of the story. You know, they use the credits in Sister Act to kind of show you the choir ascending to fame. In this movie, they use the credits for just like a fun kind of dance send-off where you actually just get a chance to see Dolores being herself in nun clothes, just regular clothes with the students and with the faculty. So we get a chance to see that their relationship did continue, but she got to be herself in the relationship. So that's how the movie wraps.
Listen. So have you ever seen Slumdog Millionaire?
Yes.
You both saw it. Mm-hmm. And so it reminded me.
Those were good credits.
But do you know they do that in that genre of movie? They always do that. I didn't know that.
In Bollywood.
But that's what I was about to say, Bollywood, but I didn't know if I was right. But so I'm just saying it made me think of that at the end, because it's like it could be even a serious movie, like Slumdog Millionaire was a serious movie, but it doesn't take away from the movie. It's like it adds. I don't know. I like that.
Totally. It's like
at the end.
Yeah. It's so fun.
Yeah. It's just fun. Even if it was a serious movie, it's still.
It makes you feel like the actors had fun on set.
Yeah, and we went through this journey together.
Yeah,
and now we're all
it's like a graduation, kind of.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. So y'all, again, it's like the nostalgia on this. And I'm going to kick this one off, y'all, because here's what y'all need to know. I was obsessed with this movie back in the day. Okay. I mean, to the point of like, I could right now from the beginning to the end, sing the entire soundtrack for you. Like I know every bit of the dialogue. And so for me to go back and watch it now with a critical eye was really interesting because, when we're watching it for the podcast, I do watch the movies differently. I'm not just watching it just for the ride. I'm watching it to give an opinion. And it was a really interesting experience. How did y'all feel watching these movies after so much time, and then, one of the things we're always asking ourselves is, does the story hold up? That's one of the things we talk about a lot on the podcast. Like, in order for something to be a classic, the story's got to hold up. Did it hold up for y'all?
I will tell you that one thing I appreciated about Sister Act 2, we always talk about also movies being able to stand alone. And I felt like Sister Act 2 could stand alone as its own movie. I've never thought about this, but I was so happy that it wasn't like Vince got out of jail and now she has to be back in the habit. It wasn't anything like that. It was just, listen, we're keeping up with this person and now we need her again to save the day. So I enjoyed it in that standpoint that it was something that could stand alone, that it was showing so much talent that we had, people that have gone on to do other things. And so I appreciated that as well. But them also not being afraid to bring in other comedic people, that their timing was perfect. The smaller monk, I cannot think of his name right now. The one's kind of balding on the top.
Yes.
He is hilarious.
He was his physical comedy. Dancer.
And even the other one that was very serious, I remember his name, I think it's Father Thomas. He is hilarious, just in his like serious situation, but still being really silly. I appreciated the elements of it. And so I enjoyed it while I was watching it.
And since the little one you're talking about is Father Ignatius.
Yes.
He was played by Michael Jeter. And then the more serious kind of like robotic almost one, he was Father Thomas, played by Brad Sullivan.
As they were panning to show you the personality of the nuns and as they were teaching the class, him doing that Latin class, I calling good call, and the boy falls out of his seat, out of being bored, out of his mind. He's asleep. He is knocked out. I was just like, this is so funny. Like, I feel like there were parts that maybe the directors and stuff were like thinking in the moment, do this. Like they had not planned that, but they were like, do this thing. So I enjoyed it. I will say I don't do, for movies like this, I don't do what you do, sis. I don't go into it with a critical mind. I think probably that affects me watching it because I already come in like, oh my God, I'm about to enjoy this. What am I saying right now? I love it. But then there were some parts that I did have to call out in my head, which was Frank K. Hey Ho. I was like, all right, where enough? I was just like, all right, Frank K. Hey Ho. But also I was not that upset with him because that's a real life person. Mm-hmm. Like that's a real life person who is this young person trying to, being in hip hop, and we've already had those conversations about what it is. So I can't even be like really upset that he's like this because I was like, there's a ton of you out there. Your story needs to be told too. And so
Brittany's talking about the character Frankie, played by Devin Common, and he was essentially a white guy who was very much embracing hip hop. And he was doing it in terms of his lingo, and he was doing it in terms of like he was a rapper, and it felt full persona, but it felt like a little over the top. But again, I met that guy. I know that guy.
Went to school with him.
Totally.
Work with him.
So it was very real in that way.
It was very real. And I do want to point out that Monica Calhoun was also
one of the classroom kids. Yeah.
She's someone that's more so known in a lot of Black movies. And then also Whoopi Goldberg's daughter. I don't know
Alexandria Martin.
Yes, she was in the movie as well. So I just appreciated just that some of these people, we know them now. They've become household people. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I had fun.
What about you, bro? What was it like going back to watch it again? And does the story hold up for you?
I remembered vividly the emotion of us watching it together. Mm-hmm. And I know that I knew I was going to feel that. I will say I felt like the movie came out earlier than it actually did, because it came out in '93, and that puts me, as a sophomore in high school. And I remember this from childhood for some reason, but it feels like it was further back in my childhood than for whatever reason. But because I can't even imagine myself in high school being so amenable to the things that were going on in the movie. But I remember being that way. Like, I remember being very excited, but I can't see myself as a, 15-year-old but I was. So I've remembered all of that, but no, the movie the writing felt very lazy to me. And it felt lazy because there were so many tweaks that could have made the story more plausible that you wouldn't have had to change the whole story. So for example, they're going to ask Dolores to help. Okay. But it's not a reason though. There's not they didn't have a plan. They just wanted her to come. And what I'm saying is I'm thinking, well, they could have used the same storyline, but just had them come and say, look, we're getting ready for this competition. It's not working. This could possibly save our school. We need you to come help us win this competition. And like that, none of the storyline would have had to change. And it would have also made the class make more sense, because it could have been like, how you had everybody had to take an extracurricular to All right. It could have just been a group of people who that was their extracurricular. So it would have made more sense that there were all these people coming from all over the school than her zooming in on this one class. Like if it was like an after school program and they needed that as a way to graduate, and then she would have still had the leverage because she could have still
like
said, well, look, I'm not passing you all. Yes. I'm not passing you all unless we do this, which would have gave them the same story trajectory. It would have just made more sense. And then if you would have interjected a little more, because the two obstacles of this movie is that they're trying to win this competition, but also a sub plot is the conversation between Rita and her mom. And the thing about it is that Rita was presented as a studious person. So whatever she was doing, she was already a good student outside of that. It seemed like she was based on the dynamic between her and her mom. So what I'm saying is that I don't see it ring very untrue for me that her mom wouldn't want her participating in an extracurricular that's not impeding her.
Bro, I don't know because I'll say this.
That part.
I'll say this. I think like it's so funny because there are places where I found holes in the movie, but the two you just named were not ones that these weren't pieces that fell flat for me. I mean, a group of people saying, listen, we are at our wits' end. We don't know what to do. Let's just see if Mary Clarence if Dolores can just come help and do something. That to me didn't seem like implausible. It just was like they just needed her presence. They needed her to get in where she could fit in and see if she could offer some help. That didn't feel like a stretch to me.
The thing is that they lean, and I don't want to get away from this point you're making before we move on. I don't mean cut you off, but I'm saying they leaned heavily on the relationship to make that happen, right?
Yeah, they did.
And I see how they kind of shoehorned it in to make it work. And all I'm saying is that it would have been even more plausible to me because she's in the height of her career now. And we're asking her to derail that. And she just gives it all up. She's not forever, but she just walks away so easy.
Well, I think we have to be clear that was her farewell concert.
She was the end of that engagement. She was at the end of that engagement. They made that really clear. This is her last engagement with the last show with us. And so she was done. Yeah, it was the end of that engagement. And then the other thing was she was like, yeah, I'll just meet a few weeks, right? Like they didn't box in on time, but she also didn't come in and say, I'm going to stay for months and months, But I thought that we just need something. Can you just come and be present with us and help us? That didn't feel like a shoehorn to me. It felt like it worked, The other thing that, the relationship between Rita and her mother, I felt like what Rita's mother was saying is that, my late husband was incredibly talented and he was very invested in his music and he wasted time. He died having not been successful. And so her whole thing it was not, I don't want my daughter to have any extracurricular activities. It was in particular, I don't want you to do what your father did. I don't want you to repeat the cycle of thinking that music is a viable career path. And so it was specifically about music.
I know, but what I'm saying is they never presented Rita like that's what she was even trying to do. Like they just, it wasn't like Rita was skipping class to.
It wasn't about skipping class. It was about
the juke joint.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So there wasn't. What I'm saying is.
But the mom even said that. She said, we've talked about this. She talked about it as an ongoing conversation of, no, you're not doing music.
I'm saying I didn't see why.
I get what you're saying, bro. They didn't fully flesh out that backstory as to
and
why
it wouldn't took a lot.
I thought they did. I thought they did because it wasn't like she was rebelliously, I'm going to be an artist. It was just that she had a talent and the mother did not want her to be caught up in that.
But I think, and it was really what I don't think they wanted to highlight, but I think the more deeper part of it is like, it was fear. It was like, now, and I'm a single mom. That was not the plan. My husband is dead. Your father is dead. Obviously,
she was in pain. She was in pain from that.
I don't want you to go into this, but realize that at the end, when she was like, "You did it in a way I never let you," and she was very clear about saying that to her, admitting her own like my apprehensions and how I placed them on you, and I shouldn't have done that. Like she was making that admittance, but I think it was just out of fear of being like, man, if you're only thinking about singing, there are not a ton of singers. There's some who she's still out there on the corner singing it shoulda, coulda, woulda. She was like, they're singing that. She said, but they're not doing anything with their life. You don't have that option. And I think the layer of that is, which was something I was going to mention about this movie, that the neighborhood, right, while this is not a hood movie, right, or I don't know, but the neighborhood played a big part in this movie. And so even right down to the point of her leaning out the window, Rita, get in here and do your homework, like she's screaming down to the corner as they're all just hanging out in front of the corner store, talking about this choir and talking about class, just watching that dynamic of like, I'm a single mom. I have to keep you on the straight and narrow. I have to make sure that you're making good decisions because you're getting out of this neighborhood. You're going to be out of this school soon. I cannot have you out here thinking that this is going to be the main way to go, because it's not. A bunch of people don't make that life. They don't make it into that life. And it takes a lot of people a long time to make it into that life as well.
I mean, I understand because the other saying, but I'm just saying
the compliment didn't say it all.
The other like, so when you think back to Sister Act, the relationship that was supposed to be transformative was Mary Robert coming out of her shell and finding her voice through music. In this one, it was Rita being able to lean into her talent, and her mother kind of coming around to understand that whatever risk is involved in nurturing this talent, it's worth it because she's got real talent. So I didn't see that relationship as lacking, but I mean, I hear what you're saying. I thought they did a good job. I think Cheryl, me too. Cheryl Lee Ralph, I thought she did such a good job of in that first
she's amazing at everything she does.
When she comes in and she's saying to her daughter, what are you doing? You see that she's immediately trying to hide the sheet music. She's trying to hide the music player, because it's obvious that they had this conversation before about the singing and about music.
She said, keep your head in the books and out of the clouds. In her mind, singing is so far-fetched from putting food on the table, because she's a hairdresser doing hair in her house.
Totally.
And obviously doing some other job. I don't think that's her only job. But like, man, she is just like you. No, I need you to
choosing Cheryl Lee Ralph to play that part, too, was also, to me, really great casting, because as a viewer, we know that she is actually a woman that has a great voice. And so it's like, there's this woman who is so jaded against singing. And even though the character didn't sing and they didn't give her character a backstory where she was a part of the singing, she was just talking about the bitterness and sadness of her husband, like wasting his life trying to dedicate it to becoming a performer. But as I'm watching it, you're thinking, hey, that's a dream girl saying that, and so we know she can sing. And so that for me, it added another layer for her to be the mom.
Well, I think she did, great in terms of acting. Like I'm just talking about the story and the also talking about the acting. It was just Whoopi really had to pull this one along. Like for whatever good it is, I feel like Whoopi just dragged this thing along. But I liked Lauryn Hill in the movie, but every other character felt very unnatural to me. Like all of the kids, all the conversations felt very unnatural to me. And
really?
To the point where I had to
there were parts that were corny, I thought, when she was like, you guys, we all really need to give this a chance. Like, those all of that moments,
it all felt like I thought that it all felt like before they started recording, they were like, okay, so you're the guy who has a job, and so you're going to be sleepy. And you are, it was just like, everybody's like, okay.
Oh, that his character was so real.
So, me too.
It's the circumstance was real that they were speaking to, but like the way it was portrayed was just, it didn't true to me. Like, and the guys who are like you were talking about Frankie, and you're saying that you know this person. Like, I've never met that person who's that over the top. There are guys who might, be a little different on whatever side than when you're first looking at them. They might act a little different than, you learn you can't judge a book by their cover in any direction. But what I'm saying is he was just obviously a caricature of just like, okay, so you're the white kid who acts black. And it was like,
he was Marky Mark.
He was like, okay, no, but here's the thing though. When you see Marky Mark, that's a great example. Because when you see Mark Wahlberg acting in the way he is, it doesn't feel forced. And that's a beautiful example, because there ain't no more pop rap song than what was
Good Vibration?
Good, that's still my joint. And that is a poppy song, but like
shirt off. Hey, Mark.
Curling not weights, but he was curling cinder blocks because he just had to get extra hard on it. And but when you would hear him talking though, you could tell that on whatever level that it didn't feel unnatural when you saw Marky Mark talking. But like when you saw this guy talking, it was just so painful to me. Like all of the scenes with the kids were just felt very labored to me.
You know what? I
don't know. Among Jomo Jamea. I
him
love
too.
Him.
Amal?
Jomo Jamea, which means
I didn't think so. I'm so interested. We had such a different experience in watching those kids. I thought that they did a good job of, even the girls that were like, hey, what about our boyfriends? And the one doing makeup. Like, I was just like, those are real kids. Like, and the only part about the kids dynamic to me that, was a little bit of a reach was that no one was being bullied. And I'm not saying you have to have bullying, but there was literally like everybody.
What was his name? Trevor or Troy? He was being bullied.
He wasn't really being bullied. They did. They just kind of rolled their eyes at him. You're thinking about like the nerdy guy, Tyler Chase.
Tyler.
He was played by Christian Fitzharris. No, like he stood up. Hi, on behalf of the class as we are, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Tyler Chase. No, they just kind of like
you got a big brown thing. Sit down. And
but it wasn't bullying. You know what I mean? Like there was nobody in the class that was like,
what to happen?
I don't know. I just feel like if there's any part of the dynamic with the young people that was a little bit of a reach, it was that they truly, everybody, the whole class got along with everybody. There weren't little cliques. It was just like, we're all a big, super fun group. We love and embrace each other.
That too.
It was very utopian, the way that they were portraying it, that all of these kids,
they all got along,
hang along. And it was all different ethnicities. Some look racially ambiguous. Some you could tell were mixed. Some white, black, You even had some that looked Hispanic, like you, or Latinx, like you had this. It was, and that was something I did reflect on. Like, man, I kind of wish we could be comfortable with each other in this way.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, the entire staff of that school was white.
That was very real.
And then the other part of it is that was kind of, I was like, okay, they just kind of plopped someone in here. Cool, that's fine. I'm being forgiving. Was a Black lady that was a part of the archdiocese. I was like, girl, you would not be part of the archdiocese for playing. But I was like, but I said that I think that they were trying their hardest, and even down to just when we talk about the graffiti that they had, that the artwork, or murals as they would call it, and then also just even them zeroing in, and I don't know if you guys noticed it, the part where the Black rapper was calling Rita. Sketch. This was after Sketch. After Rita quit and Rita was coming up onto the basketball court.
He was played by Ron Johnson.
Well, Sketch approached Rita like, man, we need you. He has on Alliance of African Colleges hat. And so I was just looking at them bringing in these elements as much as they could at whatever point they could.
Well, it was directed by Bill Duke. That answers a lot of that question.
Oh, okay. That's a Black man?
Black man. I'm adding him to our list. He is the Black man. Girl, listen. He actually did a cameo.
Minister Society.
He did a cameo. He played the shop owner. He was the one telling Sketch to get back to work. He put himself in as a little cameo.
Okay.
Bill Duke. He's really a very important.
I know him. I don't know his
Black
name.
director.
I'm happy I know.
I met him many times. He was around Howard's campus a lot when I was in undergrad.
So that makes even more sense to me now.
Mm-hmm.
Him making sure there was a balance of diversity in this movie, because he was actually showing the hood. Like, he was showing this is what happens. And then just even this older Black man, you need to get your better job, boy. And like, just saying that to him while you out here on the corner with this hat and this kufi on, you need to go get you a job. We're all walking away from you. I appreciate that part. So that you saying that, like, when you said, I'm like, oh, well, that makes all the sense.
It explains it totally. And I one of the things, like, so I think this is maybe a good segue.
Oh, wait, one more thing before you say it, is that it also makes sense to me why majority of the kids in the choir got a line. I could see Bill Duke being like, I want everybody to have a little
just piece. To have everybody got a little line.
Word. Exactly. Something. Even if it was just like a facial expression, you got something that showed you that everybody got something to say, which I bet made all of them feel very important, like, to have that. So this movie was a little bit deep then. He was trying to, Bill, okay then, Bill. Made me love this movie.
Yeah, and for me, it was like, and bro, you were making that point earlier about Sister Act, about how they had concepts that they touched on, but they weren't heavy-handed. I thought Sister Act 2 did the exact same thing. We clearly were broaching the subject of what happens when the teachers cannot relate to the students. What happens? How can that school be successful? They also broached the topic of diversity. There was a point where they were, Mary Clarence, Dolores, was like testing out all their voices to see how they would be placed in the choir. And she asked the one girl, sing Mary Had a Little Lamb. And the girl was like, I don't know Mary Had a Little Lamb. And Dolores says, and all the kids start laughing like, you don't know Mary Had a Little Lamb. And Dolores goes, listen, we are not going to fault her because she does not know that Mary had a lamb. She said, maybe where she came from, Mary had a dog or a kitty cat or a little bald-haired brother named Bart. Yes, I do have this movie memorized. Yes. But anyway, the point is, it was like, again, they were talking about diversity and being able to embrace people with different backgrounds without being heavy-handed about it. You know?
Yeah, I can agree. I agree with all that.
I thought they did a great job with that, and I think, like, the other thing, again, just back to Rita and her relationships with her mother and then with the other kids. One of the things that I think a lot of movies do that feature like a core cast of young people, as they always have to have a love story. They always have to have some little love story. And there were moments of flirtation between the kids, little teeny little moments. But I just loved that there was no part of the relationship between the kids that was reliant on them like having some kind of romantic story.
Falling in love.
You know, it just wasn't about that. They were individuals. And I just thought
trying something new too.
Totally.
Because they were against the choir at first. Then it was like, it could be dope. Frankie, that's a Frankie.
Yeah, it could be dope. It could be dope. Yeah, I'm gonna take care of business this time. Oh, thanks, Frankie.
When that happened, I had to pause the movie and step away. I stepped away for about an hour and a half. I just couldn't,
I promise I'm
it
putting
was
that
just
into my vocabulary,
like,
and I plan to say that to y'all often. It could
be dope. It could be dope. It could be dope. And they were like, oh yeah, it could. Y'all, what about we've talked about the story, we've talked about the characters.
I can't even believe we're debating this. The acting was so bad. It was so
it wasn't so bad.
It wasn't so
bro,
bad.
I can't even believe you're saying it was so bad.
For me, I'm just saying that's
but bro, it wasn't so bad.
I'm saying from my opinion.
Maybe there were certain people that weren't good, but the acting overall, you can't say it was so bad.
I'm talking about the kids. All the kids were so bad, in my opinion. They were like Good Burger level acting.
Lauren like that.
No, except for Lauren. Except for Lauren. Lauryn Hill.
Calhoun like that.
No,
I thought Amal did a good job. I mean, obviously, Tanya Blount was there for her singing abilities. Okay, she was the one who sang "His Eyes on the Sparrow" with
this is a church.
Yeah.
Now,
and if you all have some time, we don't have time to get into it now, but I would encourage everyone just to Google Tanya Blount, because I read up a little bit on her story. You know, there are some people that just need to sing. Okay, and that girl could blow, and so she needs to be out here in this here life singing. And so I was looking up like, where is she? And she has a very interesting story of ups and downs in her career. So I would encourage everyone to, if you're interested. But that's actually my segue to the music.
I'll say the music. See, that Sister Act 2 didn't feel like a movie to me. It felt like a musical with scenes getting to the next music song, the next music number. And so like but the music though, now that is
those
timeless.
scenes are iconic.
I mean, those like
they're iconic.
Amal, when they sang "Oh Happy Day" and he hit that note,
everybody was like,
and I'm talking about it's one of those. The music was so good that I wonder if it colored how much I liked the movie. But like seeing Lauryn sing that, and it just so effortlessly comes out of her mouth, and she is so just, and you could tell why she became who she was. You know what I'm saying? Based on that, just based on, and her acting also to me was not the greatest, but she was the best out of all of the kids.
She did a good job.
And her, that's the level of acting I would expect from her first role. Like I wouldn't expect her to be, you know, the most amazing.
Shoot,
but she was
first and last. Has she acted in anything else?
I'm sure there must be something, but not really. But
I don't think so.
Point herself.
Yeah.
Maybe
Lauren,
she did cameos.
I'm just saying.
Lauren, I love
you. But when it comes to that music, man, it was timeless music, just like timeless comedy.
Totally. And even the songs that weren't prominent, like there was a song that was just playing in the background in Rita's house, "Never Should Have Let You Go" by High Five. Listen, that song is on that soundtrack.
Yeah, all of those songs.
It's the second song on there, and it is so good. "Deeper Love" by Aretha Franklin. It's only on the sound, like they play it during the credits, but it's so good. Every song on that soundtrack.
Yes.
And when they did their the other thing I really liked about it was that the other musical acts, when they got to the end and they're at the competition, everybody was good. They also had a nice array of sounds.
Totally.
In the still of the night. I don't know if that was that good.
They were just in black shirts and pants, but they sounded great.
Yeah,
they sounded all right.
Yeah, for what they were doing, they
hit those. They hit that harmony.
It's like that I can see somebody saying that's not their music, but for just like if you watch a bluegrass band,
and their kids, they're high school.
That's not my thing, but I could tell they're doing good.
Wow. That's right.
Someone like
they're in their ministry. Very good.
Right.
Listen, now I know we're on music, but there were some scenes though that
segue
to go off of. Listen, we cannot miss the scene where they are driving in that van to the competition. The fathers and Chris.
Mr. Chris.
Yeah, it was pretty
Mr. Chris.
Yeah,
when he is driving and is almost in an accident, and them and their facial expressions and everything that they're doing is so funny. And then me and Jania's favorite part that we often quote.
I mean, we often quote this. This is not a month of our lives goes by, sis, without one of us saying, I saw him.
Because listen, when he is,
and that's the point where they're in this. The faculty, the men of the faculty of the school, and I don't know, are those monks when they're fathers? I don't know what they're called.
I just call them monks.
Yeah, the male faculty, the male faculty of the school, they have now become in cahoots because they know that Dolores is a loud singer and they also want to let the children sing. And so they are now trying to be a part of deceiving Mr. Crisp to enable the children to sing. And so they're trying to like keep him from being able to like find the choir and find the archdiocese people at the competition and stop them from singing. And obviously they're not good at lying because they're priests. And so you're watching them try to learn how to lie in this moment and they do a horrible job and it's so funny. And there's a part where the robotic father, he's like the one that teaches Latin. He's trying to get on board. And he goes, I saw a him. He has no idea how to lie. It's so good.
Bro.
And that has always been funny to my sisters.
Bro, because it's good. Because it's good.
Well,
you know what?
I can tell you. I can tell you.
Wake up, you Daisy head. It's hilarious.
I just want to say that it also, to me, this movie speaks to Whoopi's strength again as an actor, because I feel like if you take Whoopi out and Lauryn out, this movie would just be.
Well, bro, that's an interesting thing to discuss. I mean, and of course, by this point, by the time they made the second movie, Whoopi was a part of the franchise. So we'll never know. But if you just take the storyline of Sister Act 2 and you put Bette Midler in, that would be a white savior movie.
Well, again, but listen, we don't know how they would have. Totally.
Yeah, by the time, I'm just throwing it out as a point. That exact same storyline, if it had been a white woman coming into this racially diverse school and she's the one that taught the kids how to sing, it would have been Holland's Opus. I would have experienced it very differently.
But if, the whole movie could have been different. It could have been her at a white Catholic school. So, it could have been you could still take these story elements and it could have just been an all-white school. And then it wouldn't have been even because I mean, you don't think about, when we're watching Big Business, we don't think about cultural appropriation because that movie was, so we're putting her in the exact movie that came out. Yes, there probably would have been problematic areas, but I'm saying it probably would have been a completely different movie.
Yeah.
So we don't know how it would have. I just don't think it's fair. You know what I mean? Like
it was just a point. It wasn't, because again, Whoopi was a part of the franchise by then. But it was just a general point of like that exact storyline with a white woman in it. It would have been hard for me to watch. And because it's something we've seen so many times where it's like, I'm coming in now and I'm going to teach you some creative expression. And now you're going to be, everything's okay, you know? And so, so anyway, it was just a point of like, okay. This movie was good because of all of the pieces and the way they came together, you know? So but then maybe that's a good segue to the vote. I mean, you know, is this movie a classic? Does it get your graffiti wall?
I will probably never watch this movie again. And I will watch the musical numbers over and over again because they literally gave me chills. You know, like it was good to that point. Like when she first started singing "Joyful, Joyful Lord," and that, and I also think that was a moment that they impregnated perfectly. Like
she did a great job,
and they
of
also
looking mortified,
and the pacing of that they did just right because this is the final scene basically where Rita is singing the lead to the song that is their entry into the state competition, and her mom is there. So she unexpectedly, so she's frozen, and they start the song, I think 2 or 3 times before Rita starts singing. And that they built up the tension right there, I think perfectly, because it really, put a cap on when she started singing. It was just like the awkwardness of before it just punctuated how good Lauryn Hill is.
So good.
When she started opening her mouth, it was like, I'm not even going to try because it was, I don't even.
I'll do it. Joyful. No, don't sing after Lauryn Hill. All right.
Hey, you can sing after Lauryn. I'm just saying,
yeah,
man, just
so good.
It was just that her voice is so penetrating.
And so unique and special.
Yeah. And they just, except for the rap part, that whole sequence.
Joyful Lord, we adore thee, and in my life I put.
And you know what's so funny? And I don't want to. And bro, I know you're in the midst right now of giving your vote, and I want you to continue to give your vote. But I also want the audience to know that was Aubrey. Aubrey was a high school was rapping, okay, and to the extent that we had, me and Aubrey Wright, who is a part of this podcast, did a gospel rap in front of the church called Hero by Stephen Wiley. Okay. And Aubrey was basically saying, joyful, joyful, Lord, we adore thee. And in my life, I'll put none before thee. That was basically what he did.
First of all, number one, I'm very proud of the Stephen Wiley performance, number one.
And our denim, we had on matching denim outfits.
Number 2, when we did that, we were like 11 and 8. So
that still happened.
So yes, but I'm saying kids doing cute stuff is kids doing cute stuff. But out of all,
the audience would love for you two to do it right now.
I don't remember the lyrics. But that what I'm saying is, and just so you know, I will be down to do it. But I don't. I've tried before. I can't remember the lyrics. But
who's your hero? Hero. Who's your hero?
That's definitely not how it goes.
Yes, it was because it was. I was something. I was washing my car, and a limo pulled up with the movie star. It said, "Wait a minute, dude, you can't leave me. I am a rich and famous celebrity." And then I said, "So what do you want me to do? Fall down on the ground and worship you?" You see, he usually gets all the publicity, but he wasn't gonna get his feet kissed by me. He might have had the money, the car, and the fame, but I wasn't going to bow down to his name. You heard that story, and that's how it goes. I'm going to rap a little more about some other heroes.
Right. So now that we got that
off the dome. It could be dope. It could be dope.
But I have to just say that you have said in our lifetime.
It could be dope.
In our lifetime, you have said some offensive stuff to me. You've offended me on a deep level. But to compare my rapping to that guy when we were in high
to
school.
Frankie Hey-Ho?
Or the other one.
Sketch?
The Sketch.
Yeah, for you to compare my rapping in high school to Sketch and Frankie is the most offensive thing you've ever seen. In the 40 years that I've known you. I'm just letting you know. That was incredibly.
But he didn't have an afro like you in high school.
No,
he was not you.
Let me tell you.
Well, bro, I think in order for the record to be clear, we're going to have to create some space for you to do some top-notch raps. I think that's the only way for the audience to know the truth.
To know absolute.
And Onyx.
Wait,
yeah. No, Onyx was later. That was biker personality.
Got it.
Absolutely.
Well, bro, does Sister Act 2? Does Sister Act 2 get your graffiti wall?
It doesn't get my mural because I won't watch this movie again. And I want to say I feel like Whoopi's performance was great. And I feel like Lauryn's performance was great. I also like the performances of the adult cast but the kids who this was framed around, it just felt fake. It just felt very fake. It felt like it wasn't a real movie. It felt like it was kind of like a thing that they were setting up to, like these were all students who sing actually. And they were just doing some lines to get to the places where they do what they really do, which is the singing. So that's how it almost honestly almost felt like not a real movie to me. It felt like just like a special show. Like they would be like, we're going to do a special program where we're going to highlight the students of
after school special.
Yeah, something like that. Like it was a play.
Well, I will say this movie does get my graffiti wall because it to me it really it held up for me. And I do think this is one of those movies that if it's on, I will watch it. The soundtrack to me is just as good now as it was when it came out. I think that watching Lauryn Hill become a star right before our eyes, I will always treasure that. And I also just thought, like, I appreciated this movie challenging me to remember what it was like to be a kid in the 90s. And when I thought about it because of this movie. And when I thought about it, I realized that it was very similar to my experience. So for those reasons, yes, I will say this movie is a classic for me and it gets my mural.
Well, listen, this movie gets my mural as well. And it is just because I enjoy it. I enjoy it. And I think that those iconic scenes will be iconic for the rest of time. They'll always have a spot in cinematic history, even if the movie itself may not be like, oh my goodness, you get a 99 on Rotten Tomatoes, like nothing,
And it actually got a 19 on Rotten Tomatoes as a...
It's not always an accurate barometer whether something will be a classic from the right perspective.
Exactly.
This is true.
It could have been, that number of people. But
as a point of conversation.
We won't get into that. Sorry, Whoopi. But just I enjoyed it. And I think more of the background of what Bill Duke, as I'm older now, was trying, what I believe he was trying to do. I appreciate that. Yeah. I really do. So the music, the people, seeing them in their young in their careers and now seeing them where they are now, for some of them, that's very exciting.
And I just want to co-sign that I love the messaging, just like both of you. I do love the message that was being put across. So I don't want to. I want to be clear about that.
Well, thank you for that, bro. That footnote, but unfortunately, Sister Act 2 Back in the Habit, 2 out of 3 murals ain't gonna get it done. Sister Act 2 Back in the Habit is not a classic Even with the footnote, it is not a classic from the Wright Perspective. Y'all, I have certainly enjoyed.
Yeah, this was fun.
And it's such a great, first of all, having these conversations with the two of you, it is the highlight of every week. And I enjoyed this journey.
Yeah.
So y'all, this concludes this episode of the Wright Perspective. We, not sure what our next episode is going to be, but stay tuned and keep in touch with us. We're on YouTube. We're on all of the podcasting platforms, and we will see you next time on the Wright Perspective.
See you next time.
Bye, you guys.